oppressive. So your quote unquote normal life, your heterosexual life is automatically seen as oppressive. Even if you say nothing, even if you are friends with your neighbor who happens to be gay or lesbian or even trans, regardless of what their their life is, you just existing in the stereotype of normal is problematic to people who want to dismantle it, which is why they go for the kiddos, because the kids are more likely to adapt. The younger that they are, the more likely that they will adapt to these ideas. So queer theory seems to deliberately, and this is on purpose, right? Deliberately confuse anything that is descriptively normal. Anything. So people will look at you, and it's been interesting to just watch people kind of look at you and lie to your face about anything, right? Because here's the issue: when everything is drag, let me pull this picture up real quick. So she says there is no original or primary gender a drag imitates, but gender is a kind of imitation of which there is no original. So basically what they're saying is there is no truth. So then you can start to think, oh, so this person who doesn't they don't have any kind of concept of language. They have no problem with lying because there is no such thing as truth. In fact, today I was watching one of my favorite, and by that I'm being completely sarcastic, groups, Mormon Women for Ethical Government, talk about just that different people have different ideas of truth. Okay, but that's a different worldview. That is a worldview of postmodernism. That is a worldview where there is no real truth. I don't happen to subscribe to that worldview, and I resent very much being told that I must in order to fit in with the quote unquote new normal, which is funny because they don't want a normal in the first place. So, this attitude is probably most clearly understood in the binary, non binary. I'm going to skip that. Queer theory seems to deliberately confuse anything that is descriptively normal in the sense of being commonplace, heterosexual, or the sexual binary, with the automatically carrying on of an implication that the variation, that sense of falling within the general norm, must be understood pejoratively. So if anything falls under the idea of normal, it's an insult. It's it's negative. So, and seen as somehow illegitimate. Oh, you believe in male and female. Well, that's an illegitimate thought. And if you really understood, you would understand that there are multiple genders. Biology 101, which doesn't say that. Actually, somebody had recently posted Biology 101 teaches us that. No, it doesn't. Go ask ChatGPT. It's just that's not what's being taught. And if it's being taught today, well, I'll explain why in a little while. So, it views society as carrying strong expectations, if not requirements, for people to fall in with the normal range. Yes, yes, there are strong expectations for human beings. Again, because that's what creates a civilization, a thriving civilization. There are certain expectations. Some of them are you don't steal, but maybe that's why today people are okay with theft because they look at it and they think, well, the normal is not to do it. So let's embrace the abnormal. It really is, in my opinion, quite cult like. So, for people to fall within the normal range and to not be abnormal in any way and sees these expectations as a central application of dominance to create oppression. If you fall in normal in any way, so let's take that. Um, let's take that. You've got the heterosexual marriage. You remove the heterosexual marriage because, oh my goodness, you couldn't possibly be, um, a straight marriage is a problem. So instead, what happens in kind of crazy, in my opinion, what's happening more and more often is women are leaving their husbands for other women, whatever. So they're leaving their husbands for these other women, and that becomes the new normal, right? That's the new accepted thing. But then what happens when that becomes normal? So now lesbian and gay relationships are normalized. Well, that becomes problematic because nothing can be normal. So then what happens? One of the things that we're seeing way way more often than I'm comfortable with is teachers behaving inappropriately with students and it getting caught, or strippers coming to school and doing presentations because this is what should be normalized. We're queering education. Remember those words? I will prove it to you again that this is what's happening. So, this intentional conflation of normal is a descriptive sense of normal in a moral or normative. So, again, normal equals moral, and moral is also a problem sense is the centerpiece of queer theory. And because there are both reasonable and unreasonable, fair and fair applications of normative as a result of descriptive normalness, it has been and remains relatively easy for queer theory to keep muddying this for its own activist purposes. One of the more telling things, and I unfortunately couldn't find this sign, but it had said that if you are gay or lesbian, but you're not an activist, then you're not truly a part of the queer community. And that is something that I've seen a lot. You know, I've already seen probably 4 times today that if you don't support, you don't affirm, that you're hateful, or just tons of stuff that are anti-hate. And I understand where the parents are coming from, especially the parents who have been told if you don't affirm your child will end themselves. I do not want to be insensitive to that kind of fear. And I think that there's also this need to be an ally when you think your child is going to be ostracized. But again, as somebody who works with kids and who has a young person and who has a lot of nieces and nephews, there are very few people who are going to ostracize your child just because they are gay or lesbian or even trans. There are very few people who will ostracize. They may not personally approve, they might not personally like it, but they're just not cruel. There's just not a lot of kids who are cruel, and I hope that that gives you some peace. Um, because the opposite side of that is that when your allyship becomes so totalitarian that you need to attack the people who aren't part of your group. See, being tolerant used to mean that people you go your way, I'll go my way, and we don't wish ill on each other. That's what being tolerant used to mean. Now, this new desire to tolerate means that we must celebrate. And I fundamentally cannot celebrate things that I do not agree with. That is hypocrisy and cowardice. And so I can't do that. But I don't agree with being monstrous towards people. So the other day I was in the store, I was in a Goodwill, and my cashier was a very nice young man, obviously a questioning young man, if not a transgender person, but a very, very nice young man. We had a great conversation. He asked me about my day. I told him what I was going to do. And in the end, he liked me enough that he just did his little thing and gave me the employee discount on what I was getting. Very nice. He never had to have a discussion with me about what I believed about him, nor did I have to have that belief the other direction. See, that's real tolerance. And being told or watching that somehow that's hatred today, I think that you need to reflect on that because you might be the person more likely to hate. You're the person more likely to slander someone else just because they do not fundamentally agree with you.